Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we wade through a sea of information to bring you the pearls of wisdom. And today, we're diving deep into the life of a fascinating individual, Warren Johnson. We've got bits and pieces from his bio, a glimpse at his LinkedIn. It's like we're piecing together a puzzle, right? Trying to understand who this guy really is. So who, Warren Johnson? Well, right now, he's a 50-year-old living just outside Seattle, Samish, Washington, to be exact. Oh, and get this, 17 years at Microsoft on his resume.
No, that's impressive. But what's really interesting is what he did after those 17 years. I mean, we're talking about a complete 180 from the world of tech into, of all things, early childhood education.
Right. It's not exactly the typical career path. You don't see a lot of software engineers trading in their laptops for building blocks.
Yeah.
I mean, look at his resume, Excite.com, NetBot. He was there during those early internet days. Then boom, he's a substitute teacher in elementary school classrooms.
And that's what makes Warren Johnson so fascinating. It really makes you wonder, what's the story there? What could possibly connect those two worlds? And what can we learn from someone who so seamlessly seems to bridge that gap between tech and teaching?
Okay, so let's back up for a second. You mentioned those early internet days. Excite, NetBot, I mean, those were some of the big names back then. What was the tech landscape even like back then?
It really was the Wild West, but online. It was a time of incredible growth, constant change, honestly, a lot of chaos. The rules were still being written as they went. Someone like Warren working at those companies, he was right there on the frontier of something brand new.
Wow, talk about a crash course in adaptability. And from there, he hops over to Expedia, another huge name, but this time, it's all about online travel, which was just starting to take off.
Exactly. And again, Warren's right there at the forefront, witnessing, maybe even shaping how technology is changing the way we do things. In this case, how we plan and book our vacations. He had a front row seat to the birth of the digital nomad, you might say.
And all of that before his long stint at Microsoft.
Yeah.
So he joins them in 2008, becomes a principal product manager. I mean, that kind of trajectory, that upward climb, you'd think, that's the dream, isn't it?
For a lot of people, absolutely. And it definitely speaks to his talent, his ability to not just survive, but really thrive in the tech world, especially given how much it changed, even just during his time at Microsoft.
But here's the real head scratcher while he's still at Microsoft. With this stable, successful career, he starts substitute teaching, like in his spare time, in the Lake Washington School District, no less.
Yeah.
It's like he had this whole other parallel life going on, this completely different world he was drawn to.
And this is where it gets really interesting. You see, we often think of careers as these linear paths, right? But Warren's story, it's a great example of how that's changing. It's becoming much more common for people to explore multiple interests, even later in life.
So this isn't just a Warren thing. This blending of the different fields, different careers, it's something we're seeing more and more these days.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. The lines between traditional career paths are definitely blurring. The way technology is evolving, the demand for these more interdisciplinary skills, it all plays a part. I mean, think about even in your own work.
You know what? You're absolutely right. Even in my little corner of the world, just as a podcast host, I find myself needing to understand a bit of everything. Sound engineering, storytelling, even some marketing. The lines definitely blur. But with Warren, it's not just the substitute teaching, right? This guy was also volunteering his time, teaching coastal navigation to middle schoolers.
Now, that is a fascinating detail. It really speaks to his character, don't you think? Think about the skills involved: reading maps, understanding weather, problem solving on the fly, clear communication. Those are valuable, whether you're coding a new app or guiding a bunch of kids through the Puget Sound.
It's like this whole other dimension of his expertise, this really practical, hands-on knowledge. It makes you wonder, what was it about teaching coastal navigation specifically that resonated with him?
That's a great question. And honestly, I wish we had more than just these snippets to go on. But it does highlight something really important about volunteer work in general. It often reveals these passions that we might not see in a traditional career. It's a space to explore, to give back, and often, I think, it helps us uncover hidden talents and interests.
That's so true. Makes me think about my own little obsession with gardening. Not exactly something I use in my day job, but hey, it brings me a different kind of satisfaction. And who knows, maybe someday it'll turn into something more.
Exactly. You just never know where those passions might lead. And speaking of uncovering hidden layers, let's talk about Warren's LinkedIn profile for a minute. It's a goldmine of information.
Oh yeah, this is where things get really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because get this, he's not just a teacher, and he's not just this tech guy anymore. He's both at the same time.
Way.
He's listed as a principal product manager at Microsoft and a master's student at Harvard. I mean, how does he even find the time?
It's really remarkable, isn't it? A testament to his drive, his commitment to bridging those two worlds. And it's not just any master's degree. He's at the Harvard Graduate School of Education, studying learning design and innovation.
Okay, so he's not messing around. He's literally building a bridge between Silicon Valley and the classroom. And speaking of bridges, his bio mentions a focus on responsible AI and equitable learning experiences. And while we definitely have some tech-savvy listeners out there, for those of us who don't speak fluent algorithm, can you break those down a bit?
Absolutely. So responsible AI at its core, it's about making sure that artificial intelligence is developed and used ethically. We're talking about things like avoiding bias in algorithms, protecting privacy, and really thinking about the long-term consequences of these really powerful tools.
Okay, so like making sure AI is a force for good in the world and not some sci-fi horror story waiting to happen.
Exactly. And when you take that idea and apply it to education, that's where you get equitable learning experiences. Imagine an AI that can tailor lessons for a student who learns best visually while also giving text-based support to another student who needs that. It's about using technology to make sure all students have a fair shot at learning, no matter their background or how they learn best.
So no more one-size-fits-all teaching methods. It's like AI tutors for everyone.
The possibilities are pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
The potential is definitely there, and people like Warren are on the front lines of exploring it. But speaking of innovation, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the treasure trove of patents listed on Warren's LinkedIn. Oh, right. And there are a lot of them. I mean, we could do a whole other deep dive on just these patents: routing of meeting requests by digital assistants, blockchain tracking of organizational time. We're talking about some next-level stuff here. And there's one here, I got to tell you, it really caught my eye: urgency and emotion state matching for automated scheduling via AI. Okay, seriously, what does that even mean? Are we talking about an AI that can tell if I'm dreading a meeting and then, like, politely decline on my behalf?
Well, I don't know if we're quite there yet, but you're onto something. This patent, it really gives us a glimpse into the potential for AI to understand, maybe even respond to our emotions. Just imagine the possibilities, not just for scheduling, but for all sorts of interactions. Technology that's more intuitive, more in tune with our needs.
I don't know, it's exciting and a little unnerving at the same time. But honestly, taking a step back, looking at everything we've covered, from those early internet days to AI in the classroom, from teaching kids coastal navigation to these emotion reading algorithms, it's a lot to process. So what's the takeaway from all of this? What can we learn from Warren Johnson's journey? What's the common thread, do you think?
You know, for me, the big takeaway, it's the importance of embracing those unexpected connections. Warren, he hasn't just dabbled in different fields. He's found a way to weave them together, creating something totally unique. He takes his deep understanding of technology and uses it to shape his approach to education. And then that passion he has for education, it fuels his innovative work with AI. It's like they feed off each other.
It's like that saying, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Warren, he's got a whole toolbox at his disposal. So it's not just about having a lot of interests. It's about making those connections.
Right.
Finding those points where your passions overlap and create something new and unexpected.
Exactly. And let's not forget Warren's journey. It's also a testament to the power of lifelong learning. This is someone who didn't just stop at a computer science degree or even 17 years at Microsoft for that matter. Here he is in his 50s, back in school, getting his master's from Harvard. It's proof that it's never too late to explore those interests, to challenge yourself, and really redefine what's possible.
That's inspiring. And a little intimidating, to be honest. You make it sound so easy, like, oh, just go get another master's degree while I'm revolutionizing my field. But you're right. His story is a good reminder. Our careers, our lives, really, they don't have to fit into these neat little boxes.
Exactly. We all have the power to create our own paths, to follow our passions wherever they may lead. And sometimes those paths, they lead to the most unexpected and amazing destinations.
So next time you're feeling stuck or just lacking inspiration, remember Warren Johnson, the tech winds-turned educator, out there revolutionizing AI and teaching kids about the wonders of coastal navigation. Who knows what amazing connections we might find in our own lives if we take the time to actually look for them. And that's all the time we have for today's deep dive into the fascinating world of Warren Johnson. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to check out the show notes. We've got links to Warren's work, those patents we talked about seriously. You've got to check those out, and some resources on interdisciplinary learning if you're interested in exploring that further. Until next time, keep those minds curious and keep on diving.